Is there a conspiracy against BYU and or the Big 12 Conference? And should Big 12 fans be concerned about their teams after seeing what happened to BYU this weekend? And was BYU snubbed in the playoffs? We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the situation going on at Notre Dame, where they have opted out of playing in bowl games. We're going to talk about Matt Campbell leaving Iowa State to go to Penn State. And finally, we're going to talk a little bit about West Virginia basketball's performance against Wake Forest this past Saturday against or in Charleston, West Virginia. We're going to talk about all of that in this show. So stick around and we'll talk about all those topics right now. What is up, and welcome into this episode of Couz's Corner, your home for top shelf college sports news and analysis surrounding the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Big 12. But let's go ahead and dive into today's show, and I've got the topics that we're going to talk about now popped up on the screen. Again, we're going to start with this BYU's college football playoff snub, but notice I have a question mark. Did they really get snubbed out of the playoffs? Today, we're focusing really more so on the Big 12 and just stories around college football, all impacted in the Big 12 or impacting the Big 12. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit of Mountaineer hoops. But it all starts with the College Football Playoff Selection Committee snubbing, as many think, the BYU Cougars. I might take this in a surprising direction. When you look at what the College Football Playoff Committee did, obviously with Duke winning the ACC, that left two G5 teams being ranked higher than the ACC, two G5 conference champions ranked higher than the ACC champion of Duke, which means two G5 teams get in the playoff this year. That is somewhat being overlooked because of the situation that has occurred with Notre Dame. Notre Dame has been ranked ahead of Miami, and we'll talk in more detail about Notre Dame later, but they've been, ranked ahead of Notre Dame the entire season, basically, since they started doing the college football playoff selection shows every Tuesday night. Well, they decided to put Miami in over Notre Dame. We'll talk about that more later. But what got lost in all of this, and why BYU fans are so upset, and even many BYU fans, or many Big 12 fans for that matter, is the fact that not only did Notre Dame get snubbed, but many BYU fans feel they got snubbed as well. When you compare BYU's resume to other schools, their strength of record is better than Miami and Notre Dame. Their strength of schedule, I think, if I recall, I don't have it in front of me, was better than Notre Dame and Miami. They only had two losses. Both of them were to a top 5, now a top 4 team in Texas Tech. And when you compare them to BYU to Alabama, Alabama gets blown out in their conference championship game to Georgia. They don't drop a spot in the final rankings. BYU gets blown out in their conference championship game to Texas Tech, a team they had already played as well, just like Georgia, Alabama, two teams that had already played. BYU gets blown out a second time to Texas Tech. They get dropped a spot. So they actually drop below Miami and Notre Dame. Whereas Alabama did not. Alabama doesn't get punished for getting blown out 34-7 or 28-7, whatever the score was, to Georgia. But BYU, a team that already played, but BYU gets punished for losing to Texas Tech a second time. And that has fans in the at BYU and around the country, and especially in the Big 12 country, asking the question, why you punish BYU but you don't punish Alabama? Well, that question was answered in the teleconference that takes place for the media after the college football playoff brackets are revealed each week. They do a teleconference with the media members. And finally, a media member asked about BYU. I've been following this. I actually get a transcript for this media teleconference deal. And I've been following every week what happens. And does anybody ask about the BYU? For the last 2 weeks, not one media member even asked why BYU wasn't in the top 10 or top whatever. Why they were ranked behind some of these other schools. Finally, it got asked. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you what that answer was, because I have it right here in front of me. It says, the question was, I was curious. You guys dropped BYU after losing the conference championship game, but you did not drop Alabama. I was just curious. Why were those situations different? And here is the answer by CFP board chair Hunter Yurachek. He says, and I quote, "The biggest difference in those two situations was the fact that Alabama had already beaten Georgia at Georgia earlier in the year. BYU had that same opportunity at Texas Tech earlier in the year, and BYU did not perform and look great in either one of those games versus Texas Tech, the one that was played about 4 weeks ago, and then, of course, yesterday's game. That was the biggest difference, is Alabama had that big win at Georgia, which is arguably the best win of any this season." What Hunter Yurachek, this is gymnastics, is what this is, a word salad or word gymnastics, whatever you want to call it, from Hunter Yurachek. He's trying to justify, and I feel, I'm not putting the blame here on Hunter Yurachek. He's just the guy that kind of has to take the shots for the rest of the committee. But this is just word gymnastics here. He's trying to explain why they have bias to Alabama lost 3. What they don't fail to talk about, and I'm going to segue this into my entire issue with this whole thing. I don't even really have a huge issue. Excuse me, didn't mean my voice to squeak there. I don't really have a huge issue with BYU getting left out. I'll be honest with you. That's not my concern here. If you want to stack resume, look, Miami and Notre Dame and Alabama and BYU, I think they all deserve to get in the playoff. I really do. The problem is the criteria calls for the 5 highest-ranked conference champions to get auto bids, which I've always been a fan of. I'm starting to question that now, by the way. And because of that, they had to put the 2 G5 teams in. So then it comes down to, okay, between Alabama, Miami, Notre Dame, BYU, only 2 of those teams can go in. Who do you put in? Not take out the fact that BYU can get in. Take that out of the equation because, again, I don't have a huge issue with that. My issue was the fact as I'm sitting there watching the show, the reveal show on ESPN, they're talking about Notre Dame and Miami, justifiably so, right? Then as they talk about the other teams that get left out, they say Texas and Vanderbilt, who were ranked behind BYU. Almost every media talking head that talked about this on ESPN on the national level mentions, well, Texas and Vanderbilt have a gripe too. What about freaking BYU? What about Brigham Young University? Do they not have a gripe? Why is their gripe not fair? Why do you act like they don't even freaking exist? And then I get on Twitter, it's the same freaking argument. Everybody talks about Texas and Vanderbilt having an argument. But nobody says that BYU has an argument. The whole narrative around BYU, and even to a degree the Big 12 Conference, is totally biased. Texas Tech barely even got talked about on the show. Now, in all fairness, I didn't watch the entire show. I cut it off about an hour in. But they talked about Miami, Notre Dame. They talked about Alabama and Oklahoma and Georgia, Ohio State. Texas Tech, who goes out and goes 11-1, an average margin of victory of dang near 30 points in their wins. They did have the one slip-up loss to Arizona State. But they've been dominant. Best run defense in the country. They barely get mentioned. And it also, the fact that they're disrespecting BYU that much shows you that they have very little respect for Texas Tech dominating them 2 times. They apparently don't think Texas Tech's all that great either. This is just shows you how the national media feels in large part anyway. Now there are a few like Sharon Jaraja. He has been beating the Big 12 drum hard. Shout out to him. And I hope I pronounced his name right. Heck, even Dave Portnoy over at Barstool Sports has been advocating for BYU in the Big 12. That's about it. You name one other talking head that has vouched for the Big 12 out there that's on ESPN, Fox, one of the large media conglomerates. I'm all ears because I have not heard one outside the 2 I just mentioned. It's absolutely ludicrous. I was even looking at a guy named Brian Smith, who's a national recruiting guy over at Locked On. He didn't even bring up BYU. He skipped over them and talked about Texas and Vanderbilt. And he's not even as famous or popular as like the ESPN people. It's the narrative around the Big 12 is we're an absolute joke. And I don't know what we do about it. Brett Yormark is, in my opinion, has been way too quiet on this. I know he's come out in support of BYU a couple of times, but I'm telling you, I don't know if he's afraid of pissing off the wrong people. Maybe that's the case. And I get it, in business, you got to be careful about some things like that, about what you say and how you say it. Maybe that's his fear. But at the end of is looking at future deals and whatnot. But at the end of the day, man, the Big 12 still continues to get disrespected on a national level, and Brett Yormark is basically doing very little to nothing about it. Or at least not saying enough vocally, in my opinion. But look, as a West Virginia fan, we all have a lot of us have confidence that Rich Rodriguez is going to get West Virginia back on track and get them a part of this conversation in the next 2 to 3 years. Some feel like they'll do it next year. I personally think it'll be at least 2 more years. I think by 2027 he'll have West Virginia back in the national conversation. West Virginia could be the next BYU if something doesn't change. Any school in the Big 12 could be the next BYU. Because the last 2 years have made one thing obvious. The Big 12 is more than likely never going to get more than one team in the playoff. You're going to get your conference champion in, and that's it. There's so much parity in the league that everybody beats everybody up. And even the team who wins it gets very little respect because they don't look at the Big 12 as a strong enough league. It's that simple. It's that simple. And I don't know how you fix the narrative. The way you fix the narrative, to me, probably Texas Tech's going to have to go out and make a run, win it at least a couple games, maybe get to the championship and be competitive in that championship. Because even TCU making it to the championship a few years ago did nothing to help the narrative. Because nobody wants to talk about the fact that TCU beat Michigan. The only thing they focus on is the fact they got blown out by Georgia. That's it. It's like the Michigan game never happened. So it might take a Big 12 team winning the national championship to change the narrative, maybe. And even if Texas Tech wins it, what's the narrative going to be then? Well, they bought a national championship. Nobody talks about Ohio State buying national titles. Nobody talks about Alabama buying national titles when they had more money than most of the other schools that they competed against for many years. And Ohio State still was in that situation. Nobody talked about Michigan having more resources than most of the teams they played against. All they did was talked about was how great they are. But when the Big 12 team has success, they're buying their way into the college football playoff. Shut your freaking pie hole, man. I don't want to hear about it. Every team in college football is trying to buy their way into the college football playoff because it's what you have to do. That's the system that's being created. So don't go after Texas Tech for being competitive in today's world because they play the game better than your team does. And it takes more than just money as well. Texas has got a lot of money too. They're not in the CFP. There are teams with more money than Texas Tech that are not in the CFP and that did not win their conference. So I'm sick of the narrative about Texas Tech buying their way into the CFP. I can tell you right now, I wish West Virginia would buy their way into the CFP. I would love it. So I'm sick of that narrative. I'm sick of the narrative that the Big 12 can't be competitive. But the only way we stop that narrative is to win games. Big 12 teams have to win games to shut. So maybe these national media talking heads will actually recognize that the Big 12 exists. Now, speaking of the Big 12, Matt Campbell took a job at Penn State. Most of us never thought a lot of people thought Matt Campbell would never leave Penn State. Or Iowa State, rather. And why did Penn State not go after Matt Campbell sooner? I don't know. There's a rumor out there that they actually tried to, but they didn't have a way to get in touch with him. I don't know. Nonetheless, I actually think this is a good hire for Penn State. Now, there are a lot of people out there saying, well, Why would you hire a guy who can't win the Big 12? Matt Campbell is the best coach maybe in the history of Iowa State football. Heck, even Jamie Pollard, the AD, said they should build a statue of Matt Campbell outside the stadium. He got them their first 10-win season history. They played for multiple Big 12 championships in his time. They weren't able to win one. I get it. But before he got there, they were one of the worst programs in the nation. Iowa State and Kansas were two of the worst programs in college football before Matt Campbell walked through the door. And he had them competing for conference championships in just a few years. So to compare Penn State to Iowa State, in my opinion, is apples and oranges. And by the way, I saw a stat the other day. Matt Campbell has won more games against ranked teams. Matt Campbell has won just as many games against ranked teams as James Franklin has, and he did it with less resources. Think about that. Iowa State is near the bottom of the Power Four in resources. But Matt Campbell had them winning 8, 9 games a year, even a 10-win season. Now he's going to Penn State, where he has all this Big Ten TV money, big money donors, a lot more resources than he's going to have at Iowa State. I think I saw where they were going to commit $30 million for NIL money. He will not get $30 million at Iowa State. I can tell you that right now, at least not in the near term. Maybe a few years down the road, but not right now. So I think this is a really good hire. Now, would Matt Campbell have been my first choice for Penn State? No. But I think it's a good hire. And I recommend you all go find Jamie Pollard's press conference where he talked, it wasn't really a press conference. It was him talking to the media outside or somewhere in the facilities. They asked him questions about, Matt Campbell and whatnot, and he made some great points. Matt Campbell has had multiple opportunities to leave Iowa State for bigger jobs, and he said no every single time. Matt Campbell is not a job hopper. He chose Penn State because the timing was right for him due to some family situations. He has family that lives in the eastern U.S. He has an aging mother that lives in the eastern U.S., and he gets to be closer to her. I think it was his mother. It was an aging family member. He gets to be back closer to family. The timing was right for him. So this is not, Matt Campbell leaving Iowa State was not a shot at Iowa State. It was just a better opportunity at this point in time for him, not just financially, but also from a family dynamic perspective. So you've got to respect Matt Campbell for that. And Jamie Pollard had nothing but glowing things to say about Matt Campbell and his character and how he ran the program. So, for those who are questioning why he left, I think it's all about timing, where you're at in your life. Maybe money will play a role in it, but at the end of the day, I don't think it was the end-all be-all for Matt Campbell because he's had opportunities to leave before, even for NFL jobs, is my understanding. I heard Josh Pate say that he had an opportunity to leave for the Detroit Lions, and he passed it up. He's had a chance to go to multiple top name brand colleges, P4 schools, and he passed it up. Brands that are larger, than Penn State, for example. Than Iowa State. But Penn State was the right fit at the right time. That's all there is to it. And as far as what Iowa State is doing to replace Matt Campbell, man, they went out and got is it Matt Rogers? Is that his name? Anyway, the guy who was the coach at Washington State this past year had spent a few years at North Dakota State before that. I think he won national championship at North Dakota State. Matt Rogers was announced as the Iowa State coach, I think the same day or at least within 24 hours of the Matt Campbell announcement being made. And fans were wondering, they had to know this way in advance. That's not the case. Jamie Pollard explained that as well. Rogers and Pollard are actually really close friends. They had spent time together. Their wives had spent time together. They knew each other. Rogers had told Jamie Pollard when he was at North Dakota State, what do I need to do to become the head football coach at Iowa State University? Jamie Pollard told him up front, you probably need to step up a level first before you come all the way to the Power Four. So what did Rogers do? He goes to Washington State. Coaches at Washington State for a year, which is a G6 school. Maybe 2 years, not sure. Now he's taking another step to Power Four. So that was probably Jamie Pollard's first phone call. And Jamie Pollard said that Rogers accepted the job before they even negotiated a salary. That's how bad he wanted it. TJ Otzelberger, the basketball coach at Iowa State, worked with Rogers at North Dakota State. He knew him. He vouched for him. They went out and landed a dog, in my opinion, in Coach Rogers. You look at his track record, he's won everywhere he's been. It's kind of the Chris Kleiman type deal, where they're hiring a guy who's been successful at every level. I think it's a great hire for Iowa State, and I think he's the type of coach that can come in and keep the momentum going. He has a similar. They called him Matt Campbell 2.0, is what the way Pollard or Matt Campbell 1.0, whatever you call it, is the way it was described by Jamie Pollard, the way Otzelberger described him. So he's going to run his program a similar way than Matt Campbell. And I think that's a great, great move for Jamie Pollard and Iowa State to make. I would not be surprised if Iowa State doesn't even miss a beat. Maybe they take a step back next year. Maybe they don't. Now, here's a big question for West Virginia fans, and something that's been out there on social media, and I don't have this on my topics on tap list, but I do want to talk about it. Does West Virginia have a shot to get Rocco Becht? Because there's a chance Rocco Becht may enter the transfer portal now. Rocco Becht being the quarterback at Iowa State. His dad is Anthony Becht, who played at West Virginia. He wanted to go to West Virginia at high school. Neil Brown and staff did not recruit him. I don't hold that against Neil Brown and staff because it's my understanding that Iowa State was the only P4 school recruiting Rocco Becht. So it's not like he was a very highly recruited guy. But that being said, Neil Brown and staff did not offer him. He went to Iowa State, had some success. Took a step back this year, but up until then he was having some success. Is it possible Rocco Becht will enter the portal, and would West Virginia have a chance to get him, or will he follow Campbell to Penn State? My first initial thought was West Virginia needs to do whatever they can to get Rocco Becht in Morgantown, because he has 3 years of P4 experience. He's competed for a Big 12 title, quarterbacked Iowa State to the first ever 10-win season. He's a legacy recruit. Already has ties to West Virginia, grew up rooting for West Virginia, those types of things. But the more I thought about it, and then I went back and rewatched some Rocco Becht highlights just to refresh my memory of his game. I actually don't think I don't think he'd be a great fit for Rich Rod's offense. Rocco Becht is more of a pocket passer. Yes, he can run when he needs to, but it's not something he's necessarily great at. He can run good enough to scramble around and make plays in the pass game and get out of trouble. And they will call some design runs for him once in a while, but it's not necessarily his strength. And I just think for Rich Rod's offense to really, really work at a really high level, at the P4 level, I think they need a quarterback who is faster and is more of an elite runner. I don't think Rocco Becht fits that mold. I'm not even sure Scotty Fox fits the mold yet. Does he? I don't know. I think Scotty Fox might actually be a better runner than Rocco Becht, though. So I'm not 100% convinced that bringing Rocco Becht in is the right thing to do for the Mountaineers. I think they might be better served going out and finding a player in the portal. Another player in the portal, like if they can land a Colton Joseph from Old Dominion or someone like that. Otherwise, maybe you just stick with Scotty Fox, because Rocco Becht's probably going to cost a lot of money because of his Power 4 experience. You're probably not going to get him for less than $1 million, maybe more. Do you really want to spend that money? Penn State could afford it. West Virginia could afford it, but is it really the smartest way to spend your money? I'm not convinced that it is. I love Rocco Becht. I think he's a really good college quarterback, but I'm not 100% convinced he's a fit for the offense Rich Rodriguez wants to run. Now, if they do bring him in, I trust Rich Rod's judgment, and I'll root for him. And I actually think he could have success if Rich Rod's able and willing to, tweak the scheme and pass the ball more. But it's not really what he likes to do. We know that. He wants to run it 60 to 65% of the time. Not sure, and with a lot of that being his quarterback, and I'm just not sure that's Rocco Becht's game. But you let me know in the comments section, would you like to see Rocco Becht in Morgantown as a West Virginia Mountaineer? I want to hear your thoughts. Now, let's go. Before we jump over and talk about Notre Dame, this is going to be a long episode, so bear with me. But before we jump over and talk about Notre Dame, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor here, Appalachia Digital. They're the fine folks who designed our website over at wvsportschat.com. They can design your website as well. Go to appalachiadigital.com/Couz. That lets them know I sent you. They can design you a new site. If you already have a site and you want to improve it or level it up, they can do that too. And if you want to get found easier on Google, they also specialize in SEO optimization, can get you found easier on Google. So go check them out today at appalachiadigital.com/Couz. And thank them for supporting what we do here on Couz's Corner and over at wvsportschat.com, which, by the way, is where you can get your written content on the Mountaineers. So go check it out. Now let's talk about Notre Dame. Notre Dame obviously got snubbed out of the college football playoff. We touched on that a little bit earlier. But Notre Dame has taken things a step further. They have decided not to even play in a bowl game. They were chosen or asked to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl against BYU. They said no. They flat out said no. Now, I personally think it's a soft, weak, crappy thing to do. BYU got snubbed just as equally as Notre Dame. They have every right to be upset, just like Notre Dame does. But you don't see them whining about it. You don't see them backing out of bowl games because they want to go out and play football. Because the culture at BYU is we love to play football. Apparently the culture at Notre Dame is, yeah, we like to play football, but only if it's for a national championship. Now, should that be the culture at Notre Dame? Why should it be? They haven't won a national championship since 1988. Why are they any better than BYU? What gives them, I shouldn't say they have a right to opt out of the game, but what makes them, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Are they just too snobbish to play in a meaningless Pop-Tarts Bowl? I just think it's a very weak-minded approach. Now, I'm not blaming Marcus Freeman for that. I'm not necessarily blaming the AD Bavacqua for that. I'm blaming the whole program for that. And I've been on this show before. I like Marcus Freeman, and I still do. I think he's a top-notch guy and a top-notch football coach. And according to Bavacqua, who went on the Dan Patrick show this morning, Marcus Freeman left it up to his team captains to make the decision, and every one of them said they didn't want to play because they would not have their guys with them to do so, because a lot of the guys would likely be opting out of the game. And if they didn't have their full contingency of players, then they weren't going to play. How many years have we seen teams play bowl games without their entire team? There might be guys on that roster who might need that chance to step up and play a game. What about the younger guys who need to prepare for next season and get those extra 15 practices in, or whatever the case may be? Why is it fair to them? I understand that the guys who are going to go on to the NFL or the guys who are graduating, maybe they don't want to play in it. But it's not fair to those other guys on that roster who need and want this opportunity. So I actually don't. I think it's a terrible precedent to set, and this could be. I think this is the next domino. I was almost going to say the first domino, but I think the first domino was when players started opting out of bowl games for the draft. But I think this is the next domino to fall in bowl games going completely away. This is going to – college football continues to go through major changes, and this is another one of those changes that, in my opinion, is not a good change. The bowl games, the bowl system is one of the things we loved about college football. Diehard fans love to sit down starting around mid to late December. You get a bowl game almost every day, at least every weekend, multiple bowl games to watch. That's going to be taken from us now at some point. Look at all the teams around the country that have turned bowl games down. Now, all for various reasons. I'm not judging those teams the same because context matters here. We'll get to that in a minute. But Notre Dame simply backing out of a bowl game because things didn't go their way is weak and soft, in my opinion. It's like taking your ball and going home because you didn't get picked on the team you wanted to play for. I think it's soft. And Notre Dame fans, hate me if you want to. I don't care. It's weak sauce. It's weak sauce. Now, there is a thought out there that maybe, just maybe, this whole thing was a way to send a message to Notre Dame that, hey, Notre Dame, you need to be in a conference. Is that true? Maybe so. There's a lot of conspiracy theories out there. This is one I'm not saying I buy it totally, but I think it could have some. I think there could be something behind it. There could be powers to be out there, like, I don't know, ESPN or the networks, that are saying, hey, Notre Dame, if you were in a league, this wouldn't be happening to you. And maybe this is one of the way that they can kind of push them in that direction. And maybe not even, and it may not even be intentional. But it could be by saying, you know what? We need an ACC team in the college football playoff because ACC is contracted with ESPN. ESPN needs one of their teams from their conference to own the rights to in the playoffs. So we can't leave the ACC out, even though Miami didn't win their conference. The explanation that was given for why Notre Dame was put ahead, here's what Bavacqua had a problem with. I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but just bear with me for a second. Bavacqua said he had no issue with any of the individual teams. His problem was with the process, and I don't necessarily disagree with him on that. As soon as they come out with the CFP rankings, they had Miami ranked 10th. I'm sorry, Notre Dame ranked 10th, and Miami ranked 18th. This was after Miami had beaten Notre Dame 1-1 in week 1 or 2 of the season. So the message was sent right then to Notre Dame that, hey, they're going to rank us ahead of Miami regardless. As long as we win, we're in. So they went out and won in dominant fashion, and hats off to them for that. But when it got every week, even last week, they had Miami ranked ahead of Notre Dame. Notre Dame ranked ahead of Miami. But all of a sudden, the conference championship weekend happens. Neither of these teams play in a conference championship game. But then all of a sudden, boom, Miami jumps Notre Dame. Now, the explanation given was, hey, well, BYU was in between Notre Dame and Miami, and they lost, so they got blown out, so we bumped them backwards. So then we had Miami, side by side with Notre Dame, which means we compared their head-to-head, and we gave them. Why didn't you compare the head-to-head 6 weeks ago, or even 2 weeks ago? That whole explanation to me is bogus. Again, it's word salad. It's word gymnastics to try to explain why you did something completely stupid. Again, I don't even like Notre Dame. So I'm not trying to be on their side here. I'm just trying to look at why college football has a lot of issues to fix, and the college football playoff process is one of them. We cannot have all these explanations that make absolutely zero sense as to why teams don't get in. You've got to stop letting people who just watch games and have an opinion decide who plays for a national championship. That somehow has to stop. Does it mean we shrink it down and have less teams and go more to like an NFL model? Maybe you do. And if that happens, then that means the G5 might lose their spot. And I'm sorry, but that might be what it takes. Maybe the G6 needs to have their own playoff. I think we're inching closer and closer to that happening. And it sucks because I don't like it. But it also sucks that teams like BYU and Notre Dame have to sit at home and not get a chance to play for a national championship when they have a resume that deserves it. And I actually agree with people who say that Notre Dame might actually have a shot to win the whole dang thing. Again, I don't even like Notre Dame, but I'm just being real. I've never been a Notre Dame fan. I can't stand them because they think their poop don't stink, because they think they have the right, or have the privilege, I should say, to never join a league. They have the privilege of taking their ball and going home and not playing in a bowl game. They're too good for that Pop-Tarts Bowl. Screw you, Notre Dame. But anyway, that's a whole. I don't want to get down that tangent. Long story short, when you just toss everything into a blender and blend it up, what you come out with? College football is broken. I don't mean broken from a popularity standpoint. It's more popular than ever. But I'm talking about broken as far as the process, the fairness, the parity. There's a little bit more. We saw in recruiting there's a little bit more parity than there used to be. But, man, when it comes to the way the TV networks are running the sport, and it's not right. Congress has got to step in and do something. They need to have a commissioner that oversees the whole sport of college football. College football needs to be separate from the rest of the sports. It's grown way too big, and it's got to be changed. It has to be changed, man. The NFL gets it right. I was sitting there watching the Buffalo Bills play thinking, man, here the Buffalo Bills are sitting at 8-4, and they're still fighting for their playoff lives. There's a chance Buffalo Bills don't make the playoffs. Even though a lot of people think they have a team that's talented enough to go win a Super Bowl. Because of the way the system's set up. Because the Patriots are right now the best team in the division. And there are other teams in other divisions with different records. Heck, the Pittsburgh Steelers are leading the North, or the AFC South, whatever that division is. And the Buffalo Bills just beat the snot out of the Steelers 2 weeks ago, or last week. The Steelers could get in, the Bills could not. But nobody whines and complains about it. You know why? Because that's the way it works. And everybody knows it. College football needs to somehow figure out a way to adopt more of an NFL model, and you can't do it with 136 teams. It's just not possible. It's not feasible. They're going to have to shrink things down, and I think that's eventually – I think what just happened to Notre Dame is going to drastically shape the future of college football in ways we've kind of predicted it's coming, but I think it may speed up the process and how fast we get there. Unfortunately for you G6 fans, I think you're eventually going to get left out of the playoff. You're probably going to have to form your own playoff. And I think the power conferences may potentially can even shrink down. Can you even do an NFL model with 68 or 69 teams? And will Notre Dame eventually be forced to join another league? Because here's what Pete Bavacqua had to say about the ACC. Listen to this. He said the ACC has done permanent damage to their relationship. And that the conference took shots, not the individual teams. He said, I don't blame the individual teams for taking shots at us. That's what they're supposed to do, fight for themselves. But he says the ACC took shots at Notre Dame when they're a member of that conference in, 25 other sports. And I'll be honest with you, he has a point. That's why the ACC getting in bed with Notre Dame from the get-go was a risk. And I think that's why this relationship, he wouldn't say it was irreparable damage, even though Dan Patrick asked him. He said, I won't ever use the word irreparable, but it's definitely not in a good spot. This could be the straw that forces Notre Dame to eventually join the Big Ten Conference. It's very possible. Now, Pete Bavacqua did confirm that the new college football playoff agreement, there's a memorandum of understanding out there that says that if Notre Dame is ranked in a 12-team playoff, as long as Notre Dame's ranked in the top 12, they're going to get an automatic bid. That was negotiated in the new agreement. But that doesn't start until next season. Doesn't apply to this one, obviously. But even that, to me, is bogus. One team should never have that much say in a sport with 136 other teams in it. One team should not have the same power as an entire conference. The ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC, maybe not even the ACC, but definitely the Big 12 and the SEC should be pissed off at the amount of power Notre Dame, and heck, even the ACC too, for that matter, at how much power Notre Dame has. One team should never have that much control over the sport. I don't even think one conference, even though the SEC and Big Ten kind of have the control, I don't even agree with that. But for one team to have that much say is even worse. So I don't feel a bit sorry for Notre Dame in this whole deal. They got snubbed. Big freaking deal. It happens to somebody every year. This year it just happens to be you. And in past years when teams get snubbed, they go ahead and play their bowl game anyway and take it on the – look what happened to Florida State a couple years ago. Most of their teams sat out the bowl game. They still went and played it. They got their freaking teeth kicked in, but they took it on the chin like men. But Notre Dame, what you decide to do is cry, get out the Kleenexes, take your ball, and go freaking home. Okay, so most of your team might not play in the game. Who cares? Go take your butt whooping like a man. This whole opting out because you got snubbed is crazy. Now, I know there are other teams out there opting out like Baylor and others. Those guys have they might not even have enough players to field a team to be competitive in a bowl game because guys are already going to enter the transfer portal, which takes us back to the whole college football calendar needs to be fixed. Teams are going to start backing out of bowl games because they're not going to have enough players because they've already had to start recruiting and hitting the portal, or at least looking at the portal, talking about the portal, doing exit interviews with guys who are leaving, getting ready for the next season. You can't do that and go, it's going to be hard to do that and go play in a bowl game at the same time. So bowls are going to be gone, folks. We better get used to it. It's going to be CFP or nothing. And how do you do that with 136 teams? I just don't understand it. It makes no sense. The model has got to change. And that all starts, in my opinion, with redoing the CFP, fixing it. And I hate to say this because I know it sounds elitist, but I think you've got to do it where only the G5 teams only the P4 teams can get in it. And then you go from there. Or you go to the 24-team model where 4 automatic bids to each power conference, 2 to the G5s, and then the rest are at-larges. That might be better, but is adding 24 teams. But then you're going to have an argument over the 25th and 26th ranked teams should have got in. It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop because the system is broken. And until they get a commissioner and until they get federal legislation to fix some of these issues, it's always going to be broken. And in my opinion, it all starts with the National Sports Broadcasting Act and college sports being included in that. Because until then, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to have all the power. And Notre Dame. And as long as we have the 1%ers at the top, which, I mean, let's be honest, that's kind of how our society works, right? 1%ers are controlling everything for everybody else. But it shouldn't be that way in sports, man. Sports should be different. Sports is the one place where there should be parity and everybody should have a fair shot to win it all. And we just don't have it in college football. Really, we never have. But at least back before the playoff, like look at West Virginia. West Virginia had a shot in 1988. They had a shot in 2007. Yeah, they blew their shot, but they had a shot. They're trying to fix it now to where teams like that will really even have a shot. At least under the old bowl system, you had teams like Boise State who could go pull off the one-time upset and win a huge bowl game. That's almost been taken away now. Maybe they could go into CFP and win one game, but they can't win a national championship. Let's be fair. So going into the CFP and getting your butt kicked in the first round, or would you rather go to a Fiesta Bowl and blow out Oklahoma or beat Oklahoma or Alabama or whoever in that time period was your national championship game, basically? I was an advocate for the college football playoff and expanding it, but I'm starting to rethink that now and think maybe it was a bad idea because it has completely ruined the bowl system. Completely ruined it. All right. Last topic of the day. Man, this has been a long show, I understand, but I had a lot of topics to cover. Let's go ahead and talk about West Virginia's loss to Wake Forest in basketball. And just to be 100% honest, I did not get to watch this game. I was attending the West Virginia State High School Championship game, the AAA game between my hometown Princeton Tigers and the Notre Wildcats. Princeton won the game 36-35. Last second, it went down to the final seconds. It was a fantastic high school football game to watch. Back and forth, both teams had a chance. Thankfully, my team came out on top. Got to see a Mountaineer signee play in Malachi Thompson for Nitro. Got to see a UNC commit play in Duron Parks, the offensive lineman at Nitro. That young man was injured during the game. I hope he's okay. I hope it's nothing serious. 2 awesome football players who have bright futures. But again, my Princeton Tigers came out on top. But nonetheless, that game overlapped with the West Virginia game, so I was not able to go. But I did go back the next day and watch a shorter version of the game. And I listened to Coach Hodges' post-game presser. I looked at the stats. And boy, oh boy, I'm glad I didn't go to that game, to be honest, because it looked ugly. The offense just, again, was a no-show, it appears, other than Honor Huff, who dropped 24 points in the game. Trayson Eaglestaff got 0 points, did not even attempt a shot. That has got to change. Looks like he only played, I think I read he only played 10 minutes in the game. 11, according to this, what I'm looking at now. Look, I'm not going to drag Trayson Eaglestaff. The young man could be going through something mentally, something in his personal life that we're not aware of that could be affecting his play. So I'm not going to drag the young man. But from a purely basketball standpoint, they might need to look at doing something different in their starting lineup. Maybe you start Chance Moore, bring Trayson off the bench. I don't know. But as they get into Big 12 play, if Trayson is not able to work through whatever he's going through, they might have to go a different route as far as who's playing the most minutes. And it looks like they might already be heading that direction based on what the minutes look like in this game. But even Honor with 24 points, he shot 17 3-point shots because he was the only guy that could make them. They were 6 of 27 from three, 22.2%. You're not going to win a lot of games shooting like that in the Big 12. The only other player to make a three was Jasper Ford, who went 1 of 2. It's not going to get it done. You have to have more guys step up and make shots. Teams are going to double team Honor Huff and not let him get shots off. If you don't have somebody else step, Brennan Lorient, who had at times been a scorer this year, only 5 points and committed 6 turnovers. That's got to change. They turned it over 17 times. They struggled with Wake Forest length. If they struggle with Wake Forest defense, how are they going to handle Houston and Kansas and Baylor and Texas Tech and Iowa State and BYU? The Big 12 is a gauntlet. And if West Virginia cannot handle Wake Forest, they might get absolutely boat raced in the Big 12. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here, just being real with you. Harlan Obioha, only 5 points, only 5 rebounds. You're 7 foot tall, dude. You weigh 260. Need more from you. Chance Moore, good game from him. 16 points on 6 of 11 shooting. 8 rebounds. West Virginia out-rebounded Wake Forest, 38-26. Kept them off the offensive glass. Yet you still lose the game by 8 points, or 9 points, 75-66. Because of turnovers and not running your offense well, not making shots. I as a West Virginia, I'm speaking as a fan here, I get so freaking frustrated watching West Virginia teams that cannot shoot the basketball. When is West Virginia finally going to field a team in my lifetime that can shoot the ball consistently? Have we had it since John Beilein? I guess we have here and there. A few Huggins' teams could shoot it. Last year, Javon Small could shoot it. That was about it. Tugger DeVries probably could have shot it had he not been sitting on the bench, but that's a whole other conversation. I am sick of teams that can't shoot the basketball. It's maddening. Absolutely maddening. You go through these stats, man, it's oh gosh. Jasper Floyd, 3 points, 3 assists. It's another thing West Virginia's not doing. They're not passing the ball enough, and they're not doing it well enough. Guys, too many guys standing around still. I don't know if it's a coaching issue and not putting them in the right spots and running the right sets, or if it's a player issue where they're just not doing what they're supposed to do. But whatever it is, man, they got to fix it. I don't care how good your defense is. You're not going to hold teams in the Big 12 under 70 points. You're not. Not every week anyway. And right now, West Virginia has to hold everybody under 70 to even have a chance to win. You can't do it. Can't do it. And even in this game, their defense wasn't what it was. Wake Forest shot 40% from 3, 51% from the floor. You can't have it. West Virginia only forced 11 turnovers. But They need to force more than that to have it. If you can't shoot the ball, it's good, any better than West Virginia shooting it, you better force more than 11 turnovers, and you sure as heck better not turn it over 17 times. I'll be honest with you. I predicted this team to win 18 games when Jonathan and I did our preseason prediction show. I think it's more like 15 now. Yeah, I know that's harsh. They're already at 7 right now. That means they might only win 8 more games the rest of the way. And that might be a stretch because they still have to play Ohio State in non-conference. That means they would have to win what they got Little Rock coming up. That should be a win. But only teams they're able to beat are the low majors. I mean, it just is what it is. That's not going to cut it. And I'm not out on Ross Hodge. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm not ready to give up on him. It's year 1. Let's be patient. But they better get it fixed quick. At least we can, they do have a good recruiting class coming in for 2020 for next season, for the 26-27 season. I'm excited about that, which is another reason I'm not ready to give up on Ross Hodge yet. I think he's recruiting well. I think he's bringing in the right kind of talent. I'm just not sure he has it on the talent on the roster this year to compete in the Big 12. I think West Virginia's too small. Yes, they have Arnold Ohio. He's 7 foot, but Harlan is just not. I'm not sure he's athletic enough. Let's just be real. Yes, he's got decent feet, but he doesn't. He's not a real high jumper. He struggles to get off the floor at times. He struggles to finish around the rim at times. I'm just not sure I think you need other people besides him, and I just don't know if they have it. Brennan Laureate so far has not lived up to the hype, in my opinion. Jasper Floyd, to me, has played below my expectations. I would actually consider starting Amir Jenkins over Jasper Floyd at this point. I think he's playing better. He didn't play great in this game, but overall, he's played better, in my opinion, than Jasper Floyd. I just think Jasper Floyd's trying to do too much. Still trying to back guys down and be a post player. I just don't think that's the right approach here. But anyway, you let me know what you think in the comment section. Want to hear your thoughts. I would like to see, hopefully, Fields will be able to get more minutes as they get into Big 12 play. Right now, he only played 18 minutes in that game. I do think he gives him a more explosive, more athletic guy down low, but even he's not, what is he, 6'8"? So, listen, I'm just going to warn you, it could be a long year for Mountaineer fans in basketball. I think 14, 15 wins is probably the new realistic expectation, unless something just starts to click and they turn it on and become a wholly different team when they get into Big 12 play, which is possible. Sometimes you see teams click. I thought I heard Coach Hodge say it would probably take 10 games. Well, they just played their 10th game. Maybe now's when it starts to click. I don't know. We will obviously see with time. But as of right now, from what I've seen the last few weeks, or last couple of weeks, last few games, I'm really nervous about this team going into Big 12 play. But you let me know what you think in the comment section about this basketball team. And what do you think their new realistic expectations are for the 2025-26 season, especially now as they're getting ready to start Big 12 play? I want to give a quick shout out to my VIP channel members of this episode. They are John Hellman, Jared Hill, Aaron Riffle, Joe Romano, and Matthew Watkins. Thank you all for your support. Now, these names are obviously based on their YouTube handles. YouTube has now started only showing me handles and not their screen names for some reason. So I don't know what your screen names are. I apologize, but thank you all for your support. Thank you for your paid membership. If you want to be a paid member, there's a join button below. You can check out what level you want to join. There's the club level for $4.99 where you get early access to some content in addition to the shout-outs and first dibs in the chats. $2.99 level gets you the first dibs in the chats and the shout-outs, but you do not get early access to any content. I also have a special merch discount that I give to my club level members as well that I do not offer to my $2.99 level members. That being said, if you want to be a member, just hit the join button. It'll walk you through everything from there. If you don't see the join button, you can go over to my channel homepage on YouTube, and it'll be there also. You can hit it there. Also, you want to support me for free and easily, hit the subscribe button below. On the other side, you'll see a button. It's a thumbs up button. You can click that too. It only takes a second. That also helps me. Shows the YouTube algorithm that you like my content. You'll also, if you're watching on your mobile device, you'll see a button below called Hype. Track between the thanks button and the download button. Press that, and again, it helps my channel. Shout out to my sponsor, Appalachia Digital. Shout out to the folks over at Rogue Sports Network. Thank them for letting me be a part of the family. I appreciate you tuning into the show. If you're listening to this on your podcast platform, you can support me there by following me or leaving me a 5-star review. It would be much appreciated. I hope I didn't ramble too much in this show. Also, let me know, what do you think about my new mic setup here? This is very different for me. I'll probably only use this going forward for interviews because muffling my own voice is really, really strange to me, which is what this does. So, but anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Does this sound okay? What do you think? Let me know. Give me honest feedback. I really appreciate you tuning into this episode. Hope the rest of your day's top shelf. God bless you, and Q Country Roads.